Anti-terrorist policies, therefore, have to be global. There is no question, quotations, same speech of George Shultz, there is no question about our ability to use force where and when it is needed to counter terrorism. There is no geographical limit. On a single day, the missiles hit Afghanistan and Sudan. Those two countries are 2,300 miles apart. And they were hit by navies belonging to a country roughly 8,000 miles away. The reach is global. A fourth characteristic. The claims of power are not only globalist, they are also omniscient. We know where they are, therefore we know where to hit. We have the means to know, we have the instruments of knowledge, we are omniscient. Quotation, Mr. George Shultz again, and then compare it with today's behavior. We know the difference between terrorists and freedom fighters, says Mr. George Shultz. We know the difference between terrorists and freedom fighters, and as we look around, we have no trouble telling one from the other. Quotes closed. So you see, only Osama bin Laden doesn't know that he is an ally one day, an enemy another. And that's very confusing for Osama bin Laden. I'll come back to his story towards the end, because it's a real story. 5. The officialist approach eschews causation. You don't look at causes of anybody becoming terrorist. Cause? What cause? Cause. They ask us to be looking, to be sympathetic to these people. Another example. The New York Times, December 18, 1985, reported that the foreign minister of Yugoslavia, you remember the days when there was a Yugoslavia, foreign minister of Yugoslavia requested the Secretary of State of the United States to consider the causes of Palestinian terrorism. The Secretary of State, George Shultz, I'm quoting from the New York Times, went a bit red in the face. He pounded the table and told the visiting foreign minister, there is no connection with any cause. Period. Quotes closed. Why look for causes? Number 6. The moral revulsion that we must feel from against terrorism is selective. We are to feel the terror of those groups which are officially disapproved. We are to applaud the terror of those groups of whom officials do approve. Hence, President Reagan again, I am a contra. He actually said that. I am a contra. You know, the contras of Nicaragua were anything by any definition but terrorists. The media, to move away from the officials, aids the dominant view of terrorism. The dominant approach also excludes from consideration, more importantly to me, the terror of friendly governments. To that question I will return because it excused, among others, the terror of Pinochet, who killed one of my closest friends, Orlando Letelier. And it excused the terror of Zia-ul Haq, who killed many of my friends in Pakistan. All I wanted to tell you is, according to my ignorant or vague calculations, the ratio of people killed by state terror of Zia-ul Haq, Pinochet, Argentinian, Brazilian, Indonesian type versus the killing of the PLO and other terrorist type is literally, conservatively, 1 to 100,000. That's the ratio. History, unfortunately, recognizes and accords visibility to power and not to weakness. Therefore, visibility has been accorded historically to dominant groups. In our time, by our time I mean the time which began with this day, Columbus Day. The time that begins with Columbus Day is a time of extraordinary, unrecorded holocausts. Great civilizations have been wiped out. The Mayas, the Incas, the Aztecs, the American Indians, the Canadian Indians were all wiped out. And their voices have not been heard even to this day, fully. Now they are beginning to be heard, but not fully. They are heard, yes, but only when the dominant power suffers. Only when resistance has a semblance of costing, of exacting a price. When a Custer is killed, or when a Gordon is besieged, that's when you know that there were Indians fighting, Arabs fighting and dying. My last point of this section. US policy in the Cold War period has sponsored terrorist regimes one after another. Samosas, Batistas, all kinds of tyrants have been America's friends, and you know that. Nicaragua, Contra, Afghanistan, Mujahideen, El Salvador, etc., etc. Now, the second size. You have suffered enough, so suffer more. Ain't much good on the other side either. You shouldn't imagine that I have come to praise the other side. But keep the balance in mind. Keep the imbalance in mind and first ask ourselves, what is terrorism? Our first job should be to define the damn thing, name it, give it a description, some kind, other than moral equivalent of founding fathers or a moral outrage to Western civilization.